Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business.
Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder at Epic Made.
And I'm Kira, lead artist at Epic Made, and we're the hosts of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Tim Harris of the Paragon NFT Project, Stefan DeZoro of Deckhand, and Amanda Russell of Cream Studios.
We're forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and we're always looking for more sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is always brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of artists and strategists with a mastery of visual storytelling. Our studio makes unforgettable animation, graphic illustration, infused with ideas that put money in your pocket. We best serve marketers and brands seeking to engage nerdy audiences, and some of our favorite clients include Nickelodeon, WWE, and Sci-Fi. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign.
All right. With us today, we have Lizzie Mintus. Lizzie is the founder and CEO of Here's Waldo Recruiting, a boutique recruitment firm focused on the video game industry. Her firm is committed to quality over quantity and values transparency, communication, and diversity.
Hey, Lizzie. Thanks for making it out with us. I know you're a seasoned podcaster yourself, but we're just excited to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to do podcasts with other people that do podcasts.
All the podcast redundancy here. It's great. We're all just making great content for the internet, you know? So before we get into our subject today, we like our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell us how long you've been in the industry and the project you're most proud of so far?
I've been in the recruiting industry for 8 years. I've been in the recruiting and gaming industry for almost that. And I met somebody at a bar like you do, and you get into the industry, and they told me about recruiting. And I interviewed for a tech recruiting company, and I ended up getting the job. I called the CEO and I told him that I would be his best employee. And it was, because they rejected me, which I used to be embarrassed about. But now it's a cool story. And we started doing game recruiting, and it was much more fun. In tech, people just ask you, what's the total comp? That's always the first question. And if you're recruiting for a company that pays a lot, then it's enjoyable because you get to close the candidate and you get to have people hired. But if you're recruiting for a company that doesn't pay so much, it's harder, but it's less fulfilling because people are much more money motivated generally. But in games, people are so excited to work on whatever title and be a part of the team. It's just more creative. So I find a lot more joy in that. I've had my own business for 4 years. We started in 2020 in the pandemic.
Great time. It probably worked out well, actually. So obviously you're still here. So
yeah, no, it ended up being good. Games was really booming during the pandemic. In fact, it ended up being an issue because it boomed too much. But and now it's resetting back to normal with some tragedies along the way. But I think things are picking back up. Thing I'm most proud of, probably just starting my business in the pandemic. I was pregnant. I didn't take any outside money. I started it. We were doing a full remodel, so we're not living in our house. We're living with my family. So I was sitting in an uncomfortable bar stool and trying to make it all work, and it did.
Proper entrepreneur struggle to start out, barefoot and pregnant in somebody else's house. That's great. I love it. Well, yeah, you know, whenever you have adversity like that and you make it through it, like, you really appreciate it when it gets a little easier and things are, you know, those calmer times. So I'm sure.
No entrepreneurship ever has very calm times.
No.
But yeah, it's good to have struggles, and sometimes it's good to have a lot of chaotic things happening at once. I don't know. I think I'm a calm person in chaos generally. So.
Yeah, me too. You know, and the leader has to be, right? You've got to be able to stay calm in the storm. Otherwise, like, you're going to wreck the whole ship and shit's going to fall apart. I mean, just to that vein, like, last week we had the whole team was a struggle. Like, bookkeepers got pneumonia. Ross is out with a baby. Business development director's out with tonsillectomy. Kira had to get emergency surgery on some elbow stuff she was dealing with. It's just like, and I was getting on a plane to go to Boston to PAX. So I was like, what is going on today? But yeah, that's the life of an entrepreneur. But when it's not insane, you're like, hey, wow, that's really nice. I'm gonna go do some yoga and catch up on some of these emails. Like,
I got flexibility for sure. I like you alluded to. I think everything bad always happens at the same time. Like when it rains, it pours. If there's something that's going wrong, all of a sudden everything's going wrong. But sometimes you just have to laugh. Like, okay, I guess this week, those weeks or whatever.
Right.
Totally.
Murphy's Law and the rule of threes came at us all at once because it was like Ross. I was always supposed to cover for Ross, but Ross is definitely like one of the biggest hinges in the company. So when he's out, it's like, and then everything happened at once. So we have great clients. So it was like, we're going to be missing in action for like 2 days, but we'll get back. We promise.
Yeah. Nobody, everything's fine. We just keep it moving. So
yeah, it was great.
And to what you were saying, like everyone, this is a creative business, like, and we work a lot in gaming, right? So it's like everyone's here for the right reasons. Like we all love what we're doing and they're super passionate about it. And you see that in the creative side and in the gaming side, like all the time. People aren't here just for the money. Like, yeah, we got to make a living and we want to make as much money as possible. But like at the end of the day, we're excited about the titles and the specific things and the creative ideas and execution. So yeah, it's a very rewarding industry.
A lot of fun.
So you mentioned earlier about how you actually got too big for your own shoes. Can you tell us how that happened and like what happened? Like that you got so popular that you could no longer handle the workload.
Oh, when I started my business?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know where it would go. So I was trying to figure out a company name and I made a rinky-dink website. My friend helped me make the website for what it was. It was good. It functioned. Like it was cute. It worked. No, and I didn't put it out. But I didn't really know what to expect and I didn't know 100% where my business would go. I didn't have a backup plan. Somebody asked me this the other day. Like, did you give yourself X time to start your business before you do something else? But I didn't. That was what I was going to do. Like, I'm really focused on something. I'm like, here's the thing I'm going to do. And that's the thing I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to go to Africa in a month. I'm going to do whatever. And like, nobody can tell me otherwise. So I just with my plan. But I wasn't sure what direction it would go in. And I was working for a company that was doing the same thing that I was doing. And I had a non-solicit and I had a non-compete. And I didn't want to, I wanted to be respectful. Like I erased everything from the company. I was like, okay, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to figure out, who I can even recruit for. And I think it's going to be games. I love games. I've been working in games for a while, but I think you have to be open to where the universe takes you. Like maybe there's a company in Seattle, they work with cell phone companies and they hire people that go fix the towers, but they do this everywhere. And this is their niche and that's what they are good at. And I'm sure they weren't, going out being like, hey, I think we need to get in the cell phone tower repair, right?
Right.
Right. They're rocking it. So I just reached out to my network and people were so kind and many people talked to me. And I think I just figured out like, how can I help give back? Who can I add value to and what can I do? And it was just really well received. And so I hired someone I'd worked with in the past and it was the pandemic and she had, like a 5-year-old or something. And so she was doing school for him and he was at home and that was just a wild time. But I didn't care when she worked. And I think when you have constraints like taking care of your little kids and other stuff, then when you can work, you're really focused because that's your only time to work. And meet on Zoom like once a week. It was kind of lonely. It was the pandemic. Crossing, trying not to lose our minds. And I was stuck with it. So I really some people just did whatever they wanted in the pandemic, but I was really scared of getting COVID because it was scary to be pregnant then. And then I had one other guy then. He's awesome. He's still with me. But I remember telling him like, hey, my due date is in November, so I need you to start before that. And he's like, okay, well, if I start on this date, it should be fine because this is your due date. And I was like, this is not how pregnancy works. Like, right? And then I had a baby and I had him on a Tuesday. And then I went back to work on a Monday and they asked me if I was okay in the meeting. Like, we're doing an intake call for a new role. It's like, no, not really. But oh my gosh, business was exploding. I had 2 employees. I thought I was just going to have like a chill lifestyle-y sort of business where I work some and like I want, but that's not my personality and that's not reality. So I just went all in.
Yeah. I mean, and leading into what you said initially, like, oh, well, what's your backup plan? If you're coming into a business with a backup plan, you're gonna fail. Like, you've got to just be all in. There's got to be no plan B, because plan A is insane. It's hard. Sane people don't do it. Like, it's not a sane thing to do. Go start a business and invest your whole life in a thing. And like
down and dump your savings and it's sort of you do have to be a little bit off to start a business.
100%. Yeah, you've got to be a little bit like low key crazy and huge risk tolerance and a lot of grit. Like, you've got to be. It's hard. You've got to double down. It gets harder. You double down again. That's just the only way it works. There's nobody like. There might be some fairy tale story somewhere of somebody who just like got it easy the whole time. But I highly doubt that.
No, people have no idea. And it's hard to chat with people who don't have businesses. Like my friends, they ask me how my business is. I don't even know what to say. Usually I'm just like, oh, good. And then they're like, how many employees do you have? And then I tell them, and then we talk about something else.
I love that question too. Well, how many employees do you have? Like, that's a metric of success. Like,
that's always the follow-up question. And then I'm always like, whatever employees, but bigger is not always better. I mean, like, that's not a measure of success at all.
Especially not with the way technology is. I'm waiting for that like $1 billion valuation on a company that's one dude and like 20 AI bots. Like that's coming.
Your arguments are very small and very profitable, and that's super admirable. So, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions that people have about running a business, how layoff works, how much profit business make or don't make. So until you're operating a business, or if you have someone in your life that's operating a business, I think you may not understand, that you don't just take vacation all the time and just like you work yourself into the ground a lot. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've been at it since I started this in 2006 with no clue. Like, I just knew I was unemployable in my heart. Like, if I wanted to be happy, like, I was going to have to sink or swim on my own work ethic. And, I started this when I was in college with a huge passion for gaming. Like, gaming was my foundational reason for getting into the arts. Like, my father was an artist and very creative, but, he does like this shit on my ceiling and crazy abstract faces. Not like I was inspired by like everything Blizzard did from like the early 90s on. Like, I was inspired by like reading books, like all the Tolkien stuff and, all the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit and all that, watching those movies and then, X-Men and like all the cool Marvel stuff and comics. And like, that's what pushed me into the arts, because I wanted to make those things, and I kind of came into it through a design and advertising space, because that was really what was available at the school I went to in Norfolk. But then it's all kind of come full circle. And now we're like literally just focusing on nerdy brands, right? Like, so anything in the gaming space, like tech space, like a lot of storytelling narratives, brands that want to take a more like gaming approach to their visuals, more like, illustrated and animated. Those are and so it's just so much fun. Like, but we love this stuff. So, and it's just hard
to. It is like 100%. Like, Carl and Ross hired me on as one of their artists fairly early on, and those early clients were rough.
They were.
So when you're doing those like explainer videos for a factory that does printing for beer bottles and all the other things, it's not quite as much fun as we 3D print pieces for D&D, and we want to do this really ridiculous commercial with swearing in it. And it's been delightful. Like, I can't imagine being anywhere else. So the video game industry, you're like right in it though. Like, Carl and I are sort of like, we touch on it and we drool.
Yeah.
But you're like really in it. So like, how hard was it to get into the video game industry?
Well, I got in accidentally. I started hiring for a company that was doing AR, VR, and they wanted to hire people that had game experience for it. So I really just stumbled into it. I remember I went to the office. They had hired some people from Call of Duty, and I was chatting with an employee And I came from a tech recruiting background, so I understood recruiting, I understood engineering, but I didn't know anything about games. So I asked, what is Unity? What is a game engine? How does this work? And then I did a lot of research and talked to
A little bit of a learning curve on that one.
Yes, there's a learning curve to learn about what are all the different roles, what do people do, what does this really mean? Yeah, but you can teach yourself anything. And if you talk to people and are personable and kind, and you talk to the right person who has a certain level of emotional intelligence and ability to explain things that are super technical in layman's terms, then you can learn a ton. But yeah, like YouTube's a great resource. And anybody can learn anything that they want.
100%. I see that more and more, like the value of like going to school for like half of your trades. Like nowadays, like the things like you just don't need it. Like it's like you can learn most of this stuff on the internet, right? Which is, I mean, there's always something to mentorship and like learning directly from a human being that knows things, but. The difference of like $100,000, this astronomically rising school cost, like you better be going to be a doctor or a lawyer, because otherwise it's like difficult.
Or a software engineer. I mean, it does help you in areas, but yeah, you can teach yourself so many things. I did college and high school, and then after high school, I just worked, and I learned a lot about being broke and working hard and jobs I didn't actually want to ever working again.
Yeah.
And how life works. And that was a really helpful learning experience. And I'm so glad that I did not go to school for a degree that ultimately, I mean, maybe I would have taken another path. Like life is a choose your own adventure, but I'm quite happy where I am here. And for me, it didn't.
So you said something interesting here, and maybe I'm connecting the dots wrong here, but you ended up in gaming almost, by happenstance through the job that you were in, and not necessarily through a passion of gaming. So I'm curious, like, have you developed do you like to game now, or is it still like you appreciate the industry, but like you're not really a gamer?
I have 2 small children. I have a business and my husband works. And so I have a limited amount of free time. And in my free time, I can work more. I could relax, but I'm not very good at relaxing. Anybody. Or I could exercise. I like to exercise. I could do many things. I could game. I do game. I appreciate it. I play games by that game company. We played Mario. We play like Diablo. We play multiplayer games. But I am not a person that spends a lot of time gaming. I understand how it works. I know so much more about games than the average person. I know it all.
Sure.
I can talk so much about it, but I don't spend a lot of my free time playing games because I don't have a lot of free time. Right. And I just took all these personality tests and with my business group, and I'm a very restless person, so I always feel like I have to be doing something, and I'm a really high achiever, so I always feel like I have to be like I have all my lists, and I go through all my to-do lists all the time. And on my to-do list is not generally playing games, but I do like to play them, and so I can speak to whatever is hot, whatever is new. I can understand the mechanics of it. I think what I really like about games is passion. I love to work with people that love what they do, and I love to work with people that are creative. And I think it's the creative process of making a game is so interesting, and people can have just these wild ideas, and then the game can delight so many, like millions and millions of people. And I've got this community manager on my podcast. By the time this comes out, it will be out. Her name is Valerie Massey, and she was a community manager for an online game. And she said when her mother was bedridden and she was taking care of her, she couldn't leave her. And so the highlight of her life, like what got her through her dark days, was playing multiplayer games with this community. And I think there are people people get married, people have this whole lifeline. So I love what it creates, and I love that it delights people, but I don't spend a lot of my time playing games currently.
And I hope you didn't feel called out by that at all. Like I was like, I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Good. I'm in the same boat.
like a lot of people get into the game industry because they love games so much and they played so many games. I think I like business and I like creativity.
Beautiful. And that's this is a great podcast for that, right? Like the art of business and the business of art. I'm in the same boat. Like I've beat every Zelda like to 100% completion since Nintendo, right? Like I'm diehard gamer, but it's like you said, like I've got a 12-year-old, I got a business, I got a backyard homestead, I got all kinds of shit going on. Like I don't get the game very regularly. I got little phone games. Like I play Monster Hunter now pretty religiously, which is pretty fun by Niantic. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to spend more time gaming. I think for me at this phase of my life, it's more of like when my life slows down, like I'll do some MMOs. I definitely like every time I get, I'm signing up for my third ACL repair here soon because I like exercise a lot of myself and I'm a little bit of a, stubborn meathead. So I managed to tear 3 ACLs, which is a modern feat. But when I'm down and out healing, like video games is it, I'll fire up the latest Borderlands I haven't been able to beat yet. Like I haven't played 3 at all yet. I think it's like 5-6 years old now, but like I'm trying to, that's on my list of like, I'm going to junk out for like 2 weeks straight on it, anyways. So I can relate.
That's great. So like you do recruitment, obviously that means you're talking to a lot of people to like see if they're a good fit for the job. And I imagine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a certain amount of like what you're looking for changes from year to year. Like there's a trend of what kind of person you're looking for, and then it changes as time moves on, as the industry changes. So like if you were to recruit somebody now, what sort of person are you looking for? What sort of abilities and skill sets of a person are you usually looking for?
Well, we work with companies, and the company is our partner. And so the first step for us is working with a company and ensuring the company knows what they're looking for, because a lot of times people will copy a job description from Riot Games and they're like, hey, this is the role we want. It's like, well, you're a startup and you just copy this, and like, do you really need this much experience? What do you care about? What are the things that you actually want? And is your team aware, and is your team aligned on what it is that you need? Because if your team's not aligned, you can never make the hire. So first we start with that, and then we really get to uncover what the company cares about and their requirements. So it's really based on the company. So maybe the company really wants somebody with whatever hard skills, like, maybe they want an artist with some specific experience, that like a technical artist that can also program. I'm just making this up, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But then what the company needs specifically, like, where do they need them to be? What skills are negotiable? What kind of personality do they want? What jives with their culture? Those are kind of more of the considerations that we're looking for. And some companies have a lot of hard requirements. They're like, hey, we just need this person with a specific skill. We're about to launch our game, and we need them to plug in and contribute X, Y, Z. And then they might care less about the person's tolerability. It's like the personality might be a different factor, or if you don't
care if he's an asshole as long as he gets the job done.
Well, it depends. Like, let's say you have 100,000 person company, right? Perhaps you can hire the really talented asshole, and it's a different consideration. But if you're 5 people, that's not going to work. And one man's like, there's a lid for every pot. Different people like different things. So you just have to figure out what this company likes and then let them make the decision. So people are odd. People are quirky. People's emotional intelligence ability may really vary. Some people are on the spectrum. That's fine. Or in recruiting, you talk to people different ages, different races, different religions from all over the world. So people have their own beings, and that's fine. Like, as long as you're not super as like a really big asshole, as long as you're not incredibly rude and condescending to me or my team, we'll work with you. You might be quirky, you might be from a different country and have a totally different communication style. That's cool. Like, that's fine, right? Hopefully it works for the other company. They can make that decision. That's not my decision. They can decide that, and eventually I'll get to learn what the company wants. And that's really beautiful, because once you start recruiting and you start making a lot of hires, then you can say like, hey, I found this person and I think they'd be really good. And I know you don't have a job, but maybe it'll work. And then it works. And like, that's the coolest hire because
I bet
you find somebody and you tell them about a company and they're thrilled. And like you see something that like they would never have made that connection if you didn't make it. That's the best.
That's gotta be the most rewarding, right? Because you dug up a piece of treasure for them. Yeah. I love that.
And then they stay at the company, they get promoted, you start like they're your hiring manager, you start hiring for them, or the game comes out or the tool or like whatever it is comes out and the thing that they did makes it really good. That's very fulfilling too. But people do very strange stuff along the way. But I think you have to have really thick skin to recruit and just accept people as they are, right? Like you're really money motivated. That's fine. Like maybe you have reasons for that. That's really cool, right? Like you live in San Francisco. You need to make this much money. I get it. This is not the right role for you. That's okay. You just have to be like very zen and talk people through. People get wound up because they're making one of the biggest decisions of their life. So
Yeah.
just need to talk to them and reason with them. And yeah, most people are.
It sounds like there's like a counselor, psychiatrist kind of angle to this, where you have to just have some really great sociological skills. That's cool. That's really cool.
2 people with psychology degrees on my team. It translates really well. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. That checks out.
And confirm. Mark that box off. Having a degree in understanding how the human mind works is an excellent thing to know if you're going into recruitment.
That's kind of what recruiting is. And then the other part of recruiting is just following up and treating people well. And I think I'm so happy to work for myself because I understand how certain large companies work. And it seems illogical and not a good experience for anybody interviewing. So it's fun to help companies create their own process and, treat people well and give them feedback if it's, constructive and the company allows feedback, some don't. But yeah, you can create a good process because people are very freaked out to get a new job. It's scary. They don't know what to do with their panicking or they've been laid off and like they, have this desperation mindset, maybe because they have to. So
what advice do you have? I mean, I know I follow your LinkedIn a lot and I see, it seems like every week there's a new, like, we're so sorry for these 400 people from XYZ company who got laid off from this gaming company. Like,
oh yeah.
What kind of advice do you have for them, like right now, while they're trying to like retool their whole life and figure out, okay, like, do I stay in this industry or do I not? Like, who do I connect with? I mean, obviously reaching out to your company is probably a great idea.
So we have a lot of people reach out right now that we don't have any roles for. So I think people don't always understand how recruiters work. So we're partnering with a company. And if the company has open roles, we can connect people to those roles. I have many LinkedIn connections and I make many connections for people out of the goodness of my own heart, but I don't have unlimited time and I cannot spend my life doing that. So unfortunately, if you're just graduating school or if you're more junior, like we don't have a role. I have some resources that I can send, but I can't help everybody, right? I'm really specific role. I think if you have been laid off, you just have to evaluate your life. What matters? How much runway do you have? And then I think you need to have a reality reset. Were you at Meta making $400,000 and you have 5 years of experience? That is not normal. You can, or, were you at this little startup and you were underpaid and you were there for so long, you don't know. So I think you need to understand what is the state of the industry, what jobs are open, what salaries are possible. And then you need to really reflect internally, what is most important to you? Like, do you need remote work because you need to take care of your family? Do you need to have a flexible schedule? Do you want to work on a certain genre of game? Do you want to work at a big company? Do you want to work at a small company? Why? You just need to really make a little list for yourself of the things that are most important for you. And then you can work with a recruiter. You can work with ChatGPT. You can work with a good old internet search. And you can find companies that meet your criteria. Then there's a gazillion applicants right now, so you need to figure out how you can stand out from all the other applicants. So probably that means having somebody refer you to somebody that is a decision maker or can actually help you navigate the company. So you can attend a conference, you can cold reach out to people in a respectful way, but you need to get in touch with a recruiter, a hiring manager, somebody that works there, and learn about the company. And right now, a couple of years ago, if you got a job, you could say, hey, I want to have this sign-on bonus, and I want this start date, and I want you to pay for my home office, and I want all this stuff. That's done. You're done, right? Like, you have a job. Congratulations. You're employed. You better work hard. Quiet quitting is over. So once you have a job, or when you're negotiating, I think you need to realize that you're fortunate. And I think good candidates, that's the wrong way of saying it. There are many people that are very talented that are unemployed. I think there are still highly sought after roles. It's more about the role that you work in, where people could have a couple offers still. We do see that, and you scroll on LinkedIn, it's doom and gloom, doom and gloom, doom and gloom, right? You can't do scroll. So that is a possibility that it could happen to you. But I think you need to reset your attitude once you get a job. You also need to be more prepared. Like, a couple of years ago, you could just waltz into an interview, or you could apply and there were no other applicants, and people would clamor all over you and like, oh gosh, like, we'll bend over backwards to get you hired. And people didn't take the job process seriously. Like, they'd say, oh, I'm not doing a test, or yeah, like, I need you to skip the final interview for me. And companies sometimes would, and that's ridiculous. But now you need to be even more prepared. So I think you should research your hiring manager. You should look at the company financials. Like, have they raised money? If it's public, read all the earnings reports. You just need to be really, really, really prepared, because it's way more competitive right now, and understand that.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand it at the beginning, you will get kicked in the teeth, and you will soon hopefully understand
it. Life has a way of teaching you regardless if you want or not, right? So
that's true. But yeah, I was going to say, a lot of what you said really resonated for me, as far as just really good life advice in general, right? Yeah. Like, and if things get rocky, these are the things you should do, because it's rocky, and you got to know yourself, right? Because if you don't know yourself, then you're going to end up in a role that you don't really fit into. Because I actually did that by accident once, and it was not a fun experience, But I have a much better understanding of myself. Like, Carl's the guy who has the right level of insanity to start a business and be ambitious and lead the way. That is not me. I want to help. Like, you have a great idea. I want to help you get there. And that makes me so happy to be a part of it.
That makes Carl really happy too.
Yes, it does.
That's so great. Now, people do have to
so happy.
And it's like dating, right? Like, let's say you go on a date with somebody, and they're like, "Oh, I'll date anybody. I'm just really looking to get married." Like, this is not attractive, right? And the same thing for company. If you're like, why do you want to work here? And you're like, oh, I just really need a job. Like, no, we don't want to hire you. This is not attractive. We don't want to date you. That's not attractive. Like, right? I want to go to this company because, you have to have your reasons. I want to date you. It's just like dating. I want to date you because X.
Yeah.
Really like to see you again, right? Like, when is our next date? Like, when is our next interview? Should I be prepared for that? What can I do?
Yeah.
I often use that
from you. Can I contact you and be like, what's going on?
It's like, what's your preferred communication method? Yeah.
I use the dating and relationship and marriage kind of analogies all the time in business, because it's a really one-to-one connection that people get. They instantly get it, right? Because I've been with my wife since I was 20 years old, but I still remember dating some point in like high school or something. But like, you never want to be in those weird, awkward situations that are just like, why are we even here? Like, what's going on? Like, what, it's just, we're just two people that just random, like, nah, that's not working. Like, we want longevity. People aren't trying to, unless it's a one-off project, like, you're trying to build a relationship. Like, and I tell Kira this all the time, like, there's been times where Kira had a lot of stuff going on. She got COVID, had some other things going on. She needed like 4 weeks off. I was like, Kira, I've invested in you as a human being, not in like paid time off, or like when you're like, come back when you're healthy, like, and we'll be here. Because Kira's amazing. Like, I genuinely love her as a human being. She's worked with us for like 10 years almost now. So it's not about the money. And it's not about like all the other little things I'm in the business. Like, I'm going to spend a lot of time with these people. Like, I want to enjoy them as human beings because we have the same values and the same, understanding of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. you touched on values, and I think companies need to understand what values they're seeking and communicate that really clearly to the candidates. But the candidates also need to understand what are their values and if they match. And I think a lot of times people are so excited about the project, the game, the people they work with, the funding, or they just want a job that they take the job, that you really have to evaluate if it's going to work for you personally.
Totally.
Do you feel like all the experience you've had in like being a recruiter and all the things you've mentioned, did all of that like really help you launch your own business because you have such an intimate understanding of like what you want to do?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to start my own business. And when I was a kid, my parents would always take me places to talk to people for them. And I'd always make friends. Like my dad would always take me to the hardware store and I'd know their names and they'd bring me a balloon. So I feel like I didn't know recruiting was necessarily an option, but I stumbled into it and it ended up the perfect thing for me. So quite happy where I am. And yeah, if you had asked me though, like as a kid, what do you want to do? I wanted to go into medicine. I want to help people, I think. And I want to help people. I always nannied and took care of kids, and taking care of kids teaches you a lot of things.
Yeah. And, creative people are just overgrown children, right? Like we just never let go of that imaginative spark. So you're still taking care of people's inner child, right? Like that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, you definitely are. I need your reason. Like, what do you want? Do you want this thing or this thing? It's super helpful.
Yeah. It's funny. When I was a kid, I wanted to make video games. I literally, like my first project when I was in kindergarten, first grade maybe, with my dad, like we made this big box. And like it was a cardboard box. We spray painted it silver, and I put a little screen on it. Had a little fake keyboard thing. I was like, yeah. So you just grab the thing, and you punch on the keyboard what you want, and it shoots a game out. This is 1991. And it was like it had a little slot for like an NES cartridge that would come out the side. And it, I've kind of more or less known that about myself my whole life. And for me, it was always just the fun, exciting, creative part. So, but my dad was a crazy artist guy and all about being creative. So. Had that influence the whole life. So
I like creative stuff too. I like for sure getting dressed, like fashion. I like the creative aspect, but I think I really like the business aspect. I always wanted to have my own business, be my own boss. So.
Well, it seems like it's working out well for you. And by the way, Kira and I were talking beforehand, like nailed it on the company name, like so clever, so good. I can't believe it's so good. I can't believe someone else didn't have it already.
Oh, it was an adventure to get. But my really creative friend came up with Waldo for me, and then it worked. Me.
It's so cool. It's funny.
Coming up with a company name was a big.
It's hard. Yeah.
And the fact it's mean and it's trademark, that's crazy.
Do people still know what Where's Waldo is?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know we do, but, we're Gen lead aged a little bit. I just turned 39. And, so, but like, is that still a thing? And like the Gen Z and like Gen Alpha, maybe not, but.
I'm not really interacting with Gen Alpha. So
they're super young. Yeah.
Generally get it. But the people that we hire, I mean, we hire senior and above people. So probably like perhaps you're in your 20s, but you're probably in your 30s plus. So I think our demographic gets it. In Europe, it's Wally. Where's Wally? But I think people get it. Occasionally people are like, so tell me about your company name. What does it mean? But at least it's memorable. People know what it is. I did have someone tell me it was stupid a while ago. And I was like, okay, like, thank you for your input.
So we can't find a job for you. So I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I just accept that this person is this way. Like, he thinks it's stupid and he is very honest and wants to tell me that. That's fine.
Yeah, no, it's fine, dude. People are way too forthcoming in the internet with their negativity sometimes, but it is what it is. So.
I think as a lot of people hate you, maybe you're doing it right.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you put yourself out there, the more hate you will get and the more people will disapprove of whatever you do. You just have to let go of that and just do the things you like and do the right thing. And good things will happen and people will be crabby and that's okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful advice. I heard it said another way many times. I've repeated this, but like it's And if nobody hates you, then nobody really loves you. And if you're just kind of like in between, like there's no passion for like what you're doing, you're definitely not standing out, right? Like, so, and any kind of marketing and branding, like you're trying to create something that's somebody's flavor. And if you do that correctly, it's definitely somebody else is not like they're not into it, right? And that's great. You're just trying to go for somebody. And by nature of that, you're not creating something for somebody else. So totally get it. Yeah, super fun. So what else is exciting in the world of video games right now? I know we've just had some big conferences. Is anything cool drop? Are you excited about any big projects or anything?
Well, I had 34 meetings over 4 days at GDC, so I didn't go. I went to the expo floor briefly, but I don't like the super large crowds. I like people, but I don't like mass groups of people, so I try to leave there as soon as possible. I think that there's a lot of new studios that are coming. Like a lot of teams have been laid off. Qualified people have been laid off from teams for no fault of their own. Like the project's just canceled, right? We see that a lot. So there's all these talented people that want to start their own company. Andreessen Horowitz is doing Speed Run, where they'll give you $750,000. It's like Y Combinator to start your own business, and you'll have advice from the founder of Twitch and all these, crazy people, and they help you with everything, and they give you some money, and they help you learn how to fundraise and do your go-to-market strategy and all of that. So there are a lot of people funding really early stage companies. I think there's also a lot of money from Saudi Arabia, from China, from, different funds that want to get into gaming. I talked with a lot of investors that are not traditional game investors that want to allocate a certain amount of their portfolio to games because games make money and people love them. And I think that there's opportunity right now. Apple Vision Pro just came out. We'll see what happens with that. So there's tragedy, but there's a lot of new teams spinning up, new projects, and, things are not terrible forever. So I think people will look at their slate for what games are going to come out in 2027 and 2028 and realize that they canceled all their games and they laid everybody off. And then it's like this, oh shit, scramble, we need to rebuild. And then boom again, and it will take some time. And eventually they'll go crazy like they were again. So,
that's the cycle.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing, Carl. It's all very cyclical because I'm sure there's more than a few people that like, oh no, I got laid off. Well, I'm going to start my own game anyway. And then, the ones that really work, they have those really great ideas they'll build up for the next cycle. Everything comes back to the beginning. The end is not the end. It's just the new beginning, right?
Yeah. And I talked to a lot of people too who are working for a large company. And with all the budget cuts, they are not allowed to have any new games that they're creating. They canceled all new.
Wow.
They're just going to stick with the games that they are working on that are making money, which from a large business perspective perhaps makes sense. But a lot of people told me they either bought the game out of the company or the founder told them like, look, maybe they got laid off or maybe they just quit, but they have the blessing to create their project, which they incubated at a large company, but the large company does not have the risk tolerance to create right now. And that's exciting too.
Yeah.
Totally exciting.
Sure. Well, we don't want to keep you too awful long, and we are reaching the end of our golden hour. So, is there anyone or anything in your career that you want to shout out to the audience? A mentor, a valuable resource, or a favorite client?
Yeah, I would love to share a valuable resource. So there's a guy named Amir Saltbot, and he is an industry legend. He does business development for Tencent currently, but he created a game resource list. And so he has, I don't have the numbers, thousands and thousands of open jobs. He has links where people can put their resume. He has help for how to think about when you've been laid off. He has a big resource list, and it includes mentors, people who have signed up to mentor in all these different categories. So you can find a free mentor. So you can find Amir Satva on LinkedIn. I've done LinkedIn Lives with him. He is wonderful, and he helps the community quite a bit. I think thousands of people have gotten new jobs. So that's a really good place to start and to help yourself.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds phenomenal.
We'll be sure to link that below. And I do have links to his stuff, so I've seen it. So awesome. And big shout out to Rise25, John Cochran and Jeremy Wise. They are who got us connected, which is awesome. They're always out there doing their stuff in the podcast space. So great guys. We've mentioned them many times before in the past. So.
Yeah. And we've, just as a reminder for people who came in late, we've been talking with founder and CEO Lizzie Mintus. You can check out their website at here'swaldorecruiting.com. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, Lizzie, where should they go?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can follow me there. And if you want to talk, just please send me a very specific message. I want to talk about X. I heard you on this podcast. That would be really helpful if you're just like, hey, find me a job. I probably can't help. That's very general and not really my role. But if, I have videos on like career tips and stuff like that. You can also check out my podcast. It's called the Here's Waldo Podcast. You can find it on our website. We interview execs, investors, and entrepreneur in the game space. And there are several good resources there. I have a podcast with a career coach named Sonia Michaels, who worked at DigiPen, and she talks about how to interview. And I have another one with Gina Zhao. She is head of talent over at Dreamhaven, and she worked at Blizzard as a recruiter. So she also talks about how to get a job in the game industry. And then if you want game investment, I mean, there's tons of episodes. Check it out.
Wow. Awesome. All right, Lizzie. Well, thank you so much. You were awesome, as I had expected you would be. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And until next time, see you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.